Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. We're back. It's Wednesday. We're back with another episode. We come out every Wednesday and stay tuned for that. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about expectations.
hmm
Expectations from others, from yourself, pointers that have helped. Like personally, I have a few things that I want to talk about and what Harj goes through when it comes to expecting. And I think we do a lot of expecting in our life from others and sometimes not enough from ourselves. I think.
Yeah. I think it's really important to manage expectations, especially because if you're working in a team, if you're working, with people that you want to succeed with, there's a lot that you have to take into account. Expectations are for yourself, for people that you live with, people that you work with, the world. It all kind of comes together, and so it can be tough to manage expectations, but it's important.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, like it definitely starts with expect the most from yourself than others. Feel like you're the only person that's going to make a final decision on what you're trying to get done in your life.
Yeah.
So going back to, I think I said it last week or a couple weeks ago, putting too much control in other people's hand is only going to actually deteriorate you from following through with what you're trying to get done. And I think for me, that's where where I was going wrong. I was expecting a lot from others and not enough from myself. But yeah, so that I feel like that has helped me to start switching where I'm actually the main person I should be responsible. Like I'm the person that all expectations should be expected from.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. And when you have expectations, a lot of times with expectations, it's such a tricky thing because we can take it way too far. And on the opposite end of things, we can have like little to none
Yeah.
expectation. That's not
Yeah.
good either. I
Mhm.
think to build expectation in a healthy way, it's really important. So how do we do that? How do we even begin to look at, what do we expect of others? And I think the golden rule is do not expect of others what you don't expect of yourself, right? Um,
Exactly. Start
that
right
is
there. That's the biggest thing.
because if you, let's take dating for an example, right? We get into a relationship and we have all these expectations of what this person should have, what they should bring to the relationship, all these things. And yet we look at ourselves and we bring none of those things to the table. Then that's having an expectation that is unrealistic. I think we have to expect equally of ourselves of what we do of others. And that's the only other way that you're going to recognize a healthy expectation of other people, right? So I think it's just really important to understand that, to manage that. And it goes back to the whole treat others the way you would want to be treated, right?
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
foundation of expectations. For an example, say like if a lot of my friends know this, when we go out, right, and we're having dinner with each other, right, I'm someone that like 90% of the time, like I'm not going to go on my phone. But there's people that will like be on their phone texting or doing all these things, and in mid conversation, and I'll actually just stop talking because I
Mhm.
find it very difficult to have a conversation with somebody's forehead, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
also I also give that same thing. So that's just like a small example of expectation.
Yeah, like something just as soon as you mention that, it's like make a, when they say make a list of what you want your potential partner to have, all the good things, all the bad things, and then actually flip it. Are you going to be giving all those things? Are
Yeah.
you actually providing any of that? Always flip it to yourself. Look in the mirror, look at yourself before you, because it's so easy, right? We don't see ourselves. We're not looking at ourselves daily. We're just this image that everyone else is seeing and everyone is getting to experience. So we end up forgetting that this is the most important person that's going to actually do something. And it goes to communicate. If you are wanting, like in a relationship, when you want something done, or you need to communicate that to your partner. You
hmm
communicate what you're expecting of others,
You have
because
to communicate about everything. Yeah.
they're not, people aren't mind readers at the end of the day. You may feel like there's common sense or common courtesy in certain things, but always know that everything needs to be communicated. So ask
Mhm.
when you're expecting someone to do something, meet you somewhere, whatever it is, um, communicate that, because that's where I lacked. I wouldn't, like, I would just think people would just pop up and be there to cheer me on. But bitch, have you invited? Have you told people? Have you asked? No. You know what I mean? Because that kind of goes back to the pride and ego a little bit.
Yeah. Because people don't know what is important to us, right? If we don't tell them. And I think when you like, nobody knows how to make you happy if they don't know what makes you happy, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
if you don't communicate about your expectations as well as like your plans, your projects, you're pretty much just preventing others from managing their expectations of you. So if you over communicate and set up the expectations, then and that includes your boundaries too, right? I think that's healthy. A lot of people stay away from these conversations because they think it's problematic. They think it's conflicting. But what's really problematic and conflicting is when you get into situations about things that haven't been communicated.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's how most of the problems start, because nothing gets talked about.
Yeah.
So things just keep going the way they keep going. Like even in our culture, like things keep going. If no one's gonna stand up and make a little change or go against the grain and have conversations that are taboo, nothing's gonna change. It's gonna continue that way, and who knows when it'll stop. You know what I mean? Like, and how lives get affected in that way, and mental health and everything gets affected. So
yeah. I'll give you a prime example and sometimes like you set expectations and people in your life can't meet them. And you have to try to understand why they can't meet them, right? Because just because you set an expectation, that does not mean that everyone's going to meet you there. And depending on what it is, I say either like get rid of them or be able to be flexible. I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
So I had a close friend who had a birthday, and I understand birthdays are really, really big for her, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And she, unfortunately, this birthday was at not such a great time for a lot of people's lives. Like for me, for example, it was not a good time to be going out and celebrating a birthday party, but
Yeah.
I knew that it was really important for her. Okay. Her
Mhm.
expectation is that we still come. So
Yeah.
but at the end of it, she was still really upset because in her mind, she has a built up expectation of how people are going to show up. She had an expectation of what her birthday was going to look like. She was upset that there was no, balloons and flowers and all that kind of stuff. And, no gifts and that kind of thing. And being close friends, that's something that, like, for me, my love language is not gifts, not receiving or giving, but
Yeah. Yeah.
for me, I
Straight
understood
up.
that.
Not receiving or giving. Like keep it the same energy both ways.
Yeah, but her expectation was that I would arrive with all of those things, right? And
Yeah.
it caused conflict because I felt undervalued with me being there, even though it was a really difficult time. And for her, she felt like you didn't meet my expectations. And I told her that I'm not going to meet your expectations, right?
Yeah.
And being on the receiving end of someone's expectations, you are allowed to say like, hey, that doesn't work for me.
Yes.
Guys,
You
I think we
have
don't
to.
talk about that a lot.
No, because we again going back to taboo, we don't end up standing up for a lot of things that need to be stood up to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's easier to just walk away because back to conflict, and nobody wants to talk about things that irk us. You know what I mean? Like, because I think being, I guess, angry, if there's a politer word, I don't know, I can't think of one, but like, it's not ever looked at that someone might just have something underlining that, you know what I mean? It's not anger, like the way if you approach when it comes to like talking about things that are awkward to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
and it might be anger that might seem like it's anger, but it's just maybe the little bit of passion behind it that's just trying to get explanation through. It's not being received. But yeah, going back
It's
to,
not, yeah.
yeah, and it has to be mutual respect. People need to have mutual respect to realize that, going back to, do the most for yourself. Don't expect people to come with a car full of things when, you know what I mean? If you want to do it, go ahead. That's another thing. I was
Mm-hmm.
doing that a lot. I was doing things thinking that people are going to meet me all the way there as well.
Yeah.
None of them were meeting me, and I was just pushing people, like supporting them, everything. And I'm like, oh, these people are not showing up for me. But right away, I had to check myself. If you want to give, give. Don't expect
Yeah.
that. Don't think people are going to give you all this. If you get a watch for someone, they're going to give you a watch back.
Exactly.
Because then you're already doing it for the wrong
it,
reason.
it builds an unhealthy cycle. So I had to tell
Mhm.
her because she had come to my house and given me gifts and presents and all that kind of stuff, and I was very thankful for it. But I
Yeah,
didn't want to start building this lifelong expectation that it's going to consistently be that way, because I
yeah,
show up in lots of different ways. And for me, if somebody gives me gifts, it's like really, really nice in the moment, but then it kind of goes out of my, like, I probably don't know where half those things are right now.
yeah,
It's just,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it doesn't sit with me, right? So I
yeah.
think that you have to understand who the people in your life are, what expectations are they going to be able to meet, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Because they're
yeah,
going to be able to meet some, and you have to value them for that,
yeah.
right?
No, for sure. Knowing who to expect things or support from is crucial.
Yeah,
Because you're gonna end up disappointing yourself if
yeah,
you go after the wrong person for the wrong thing that they can't even provide you with.
totally. And you may not have people in your life that are going to meet all your expectations, and
That's
that's when you know who is where. Like I'm going to say right off the cuff that I have so many people in my life, and I can't meet everybody's all their expectations.
that's why the first point, always go back to yourself. Start
Yeah,
right there and then go through the steps and find the other people that you're not able to meet for yourself or things that you're not great at and you can expect from others.
totally,
And you
right?
tell them, hey, you're great at this and I suck at this. Can you help? You know what I mean? Like that type of a
Yeah,
thing. But
we're gonna let each other down. Like, for example, like I work from home right now during COVID, and I'm in
yeah,
my room like 12 hours a day,
yeah,
and but I still live with a big family,
yeah,
and there's still an expectation that I'm gonna show up in a certain way
yeah,
to be with my loved ones, and I do what I can,
yeah,
right? But
yeah.
it's not an expectation that I can always meet.
Yeah, no, for sure. And again, when you end up communicating that to them, okay, it ends up solving something at least. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and I think managing your expectation, it's a learned habit. Like I think you have to I think when you're managing expectations, you have to communicate, you have to prepare for conflict, and I think you also have to learn about other people.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
As much as you're learning about yourself, you're gonna be learning a lot about people in your life and who gives you
exactly.
what. Because if, like I said, you can keep giving, but until it's time for you to maybe need something back, that's when you're gonna actually know who is who and what they're able to give you.
Yeah, and then appreciate what people are able to show up for. And
That's
the
it.
thing too is like I think managing our personal expectations, like we do tend to expect a lot of ourselves. And unfortunately, I think most times our expectations are often unrealistic. But that's not to say that they're not valid. It's to say that sometimes we can create expectations for ourselves that cause a lot of stress and self criticism.
Yeah,
Right?
like they're not impossible, but again, setting the wrong goals for
You just
yourself.
have to
Like,
learn to manage what you like, manage your expectations. Like give you exactly like sometimes it's shifting your goal.
yeah,
Maybe it's
for sure.
starting off small before you go big, right? And I think
Yeah.
you give yourself time, you adapt to changing environments. Like for example,
Mm,
we had so many expectations of this podcast, right?
yeah.
And the environment changed, and so we had to manage our expectation of what this was going to look like.
This is a beautiful, that's literally a really good example to give because, yeah, we had to humble ourselves
Yeah,
and it wasn't going to be so perfectly put like we were trying to get it everywhere.
we had this
Okay,
beautiful
looks like
audio system, we had the studio, we were
I,
like,
I personally remember saying, oh, I don't think I ever want to use Zoom unless we're not in the same place. You know what I mean? Like it's,
yeah,
and
because
now,
I was going to move to Calgary.
yeah. And the funny thing is, the way we release it to the world is through Zoom. You know what I mean? Like it's so sometimes it's gonna be like you're gonna get slapped with the expectation completely opposite of what the hell you wanted. So be
Yeah,
prepared for that. And yeah,
and I think don't judge yourself too harshly. Like our lives are ruled by expectations, right? And it can
Mhm.
make every day a struggle. So if we criticize ourselves harshly for failure and disappointment when we don't live up to our dreams, that's a unfortunate way of living. And I think instead, if we think of ourselves as like an explorer going through life, right, rather than someone with a path dictated by expectations, like whether you succeed or fail, your overall expectation should be to simply learn as you go.
Yeah, just not having a victim mentality. Like
Exactly.
I struggled with that, and I just had an epiphany like a week ago that damn, I've gone, like, we will get deep one of the episodes, but because of certain things that have happened, I almost didn't realize that I was always pulling that victim card out, even just to myself. You don't realize that. It doesn't have to be to other people, but to justify your own feelings. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Oh, I'm not meeting this expectation because this has happened. It's like, no, bitch, you move on. You learn from the shit that has happened to you in life, and you're going to either flip it and become a better person and work on yourself daily, or yeah, you can give up and yeah, that's it.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think if you realize that your life is not a journey of expectations. The only expectation is just to learn as you go. You're on a journey.
Mhm.
This is a fun game that we
Yeah,
play, right? And we learn about
right.
other people's like expectations are like points. We collect them on the way, right? It's and I feel like your expectations can change as your life changes, as you enter different phases.
As you change.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
natural and that's okay. And don't feel bad or guilty for having expectations or boundaries that you want to place, because if that's going to help keep you solid, then it's a good way to weave out people as well and a good way to bring people in.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Right?
It all, yeah. Like I want to read, I type these things. I'm going to read because I literally had like a little, I'm never a note taker person, but as soon as I knew that what we were going to talk about, I got into my feelings. So I wrote out these things, but this is just going out to the same pointers that we already made. But I just
Mhm.
want to read it out because I felt like I nailed it with some of the stuff. But so hear me out. So I have 3 pointers and it's literally what we just talked about. So expect the most from yourself than others. You are the only person who will make the final decision when it comes to getting things done for yourself. May that be dishes, working out, or starting a business. And again, going back to not giving too much control to people outside of you, because you should be the main person every expectation is expected from. And that was where I started when I was like, okay, I struggled with giving so much, thinking that the world owed me something.
Mhm.
No, what do I owe myself? And that's the main point that I started with. And like, that was what shifted my